We'll get started, everyone. Good morning. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Rosenthal from the Wellness Center at Southern.
And I'm Katie Delirita. I'm the director of the Academic Success Center at Southern.
So today we're going to talk about the work that Katie and I have been doing over about the last year, try to centralize some of our programs and create a more intentional, collaborative partnership to bring student support services to our students in line with the academic services. So this was our Maximize Your Potential at Southern initiative, and we'll talk a little about that today. It's definitely a work in progress. Like I said, it's been about a year since we first started this project, and we've accomplished a lot, but there's still a lot more for us to do. So any questions or comments throughout, please let us know. Sound good? Okay. So how did we get here to this project? Katie and I, like I said, we both started at Southern about a year and a half ago, and our paths crossed. We were working on a funding opportunity that was very holistically oriented, a great collaboration between our academic services and our health and wellness. So we started talking, we realized how closely our work in the Academic Success Center, what Katie is, and my work in the Wellness Center, how they may not seem like they're absolutely the same, but they relate and rely on each other so closely. And we were thinking about student well-being and how this all fits together, and we'll talk a little about the research. There's definitely research there that supports the relationship between student health and wellness and academic success. And one of the first things I did when I came to Southern was I started meeting with other people around campus to figure out, what are you doing, what should I be doing, what is not being done. And I realized, I heard a lot of these from the people I was meeting with, like, we have a program, no one comes. We don't have the money to get students to come. They want food or they want swag, they want giveaways, incentives, and we don't have the budget for that. Or, we're all trying to reach the same student. The same student who comes into my office or counseling is the same student that Katie's seen for tutoring. So we realized that there's so much great programming and devoted staff across the university, but we are sort of all working individually. So that's sort of why we came to this point. And there's definitely, I feel like, a trend in this direction, recognizing the importance that colleges and universities have in shaping students' psychosocial well-being, as you'll see here. But it really requires those intentional partnerships across academic and student affairs, and when you're trying to embed that well-being into campus culture. Gallup, as you may have heard, is going to start now certifying higher education institutions based on the well-being of their graduates, and that was something that went into the design of our Maximize Your Potential initiative. And they found already, based on their last poll, some sort of disturbing outcomes. Just 1 in 6 graduates aren't thriving in any of these well-being dimensions, and just 11% of our graduates are thriving in all 5 of these dimensions of well-being. So there's a lot of room for us to continue and expand our work to think about well-being and academic success more holistically. And that was sort of the impetus behind this work. So Katie's going to talk a little bit now about some of the research.
And I'm just going to really briefly, so we did a lot of, obviously, research. We went there first as we started talking, as Emily and I started meeting, and trying to figure out how we could kind of have this well-being focus on campus and how we could bring different departments and support services and programming pieces together. We had a lot of research. I'm just going to touch on we're going to breeze through that piece really quickly, so we can talk more about what we did in our programming initiatives and kind of how we put that together. So some of that, Emily talked a little bit about where the trend's going with Gallup, for example, and this concept of well-being. We looked a little bit at the research on kind of what are the barriers, or what are the barriers to that student success of the student, or what are the barriers to that academic success, right? Which then affects retention and graduation rates, things like that. So much of the research came up with a lot of what we were thinking in general, that there's so many different parts, which comes up with the dimensions of well-being, which we'll talk about later. But there's so many different complexities or multiple factors that can affect students and their student success at school. We know financials are always issues. We know that maybe they don't come in with the right academic skills or strategies to be successful in their classrooms. We know that maybe they're having more personal issues, social issues, emotional issues. So there's lots of different complexities or multiple factors that can affect their success at an institution. And so that's kind of a lot of what the research was also verifying and confirming for us. Some of the research broke it down into 8, 9 dimensions. Some of them broke it down into 4 dimensions. One of the articles that I have up there, in the 4 dimensions that they have, they talk about that students kind of need to have well-being in 4 different areas. This idea of academic skill attainment, motivation, social emotional development, and self-regulation, and that also that includes kind of this concept of resiliency. So, and then it also, in the next piece that I have up there, it breaks it down into 8 different dimensions. So the research kind of ranged on what the breakdown was of well-being. There was also, and I'm going to very much breeze over this, but we found a very recent, study that a mid-sized public institution had done on the East Coast, and they actually within one of their first year experience classrooms, they had the students, they focused specifically on well-being. So they had the students do a pre and a post on the different dimensions of well-being, and then they looked at kind of their final grades, and then later on, they looked at their success rates kind of within the institution. And they found that if you start early, they found that, as you help the students with their well-being on the different dimensions, that they found that the grades tended to be, they tend to increase their grades, they tend to be better. And that if you start early enough that you can help them along in those, say, 4, 5, 6 years, depending, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, depending on the type of institution, and that they were more likely to graduate and obviously be retained and then graduate. So as we talk a little bit about student success, and this is something that we'll talk a little bit about how when we brought some colleagues together, how we define student success. Before we get to that part and look at some of the models that we looked at other institutions and then our model, we wanted you guys to kind of, in little groups, we won't ask you guys to share necessarily, but just in little groups, just talk about what you think student success is. It's such a broad topic, it's such a broad range of a definition, so we wanted you guys just in little groups just to take a minute or two to see how, just to talk a little bit about how you define student success, and then we'll kind of show you some of the models that we came up with, and then kind of what we came up with at Southern. So why don't we just take 1 minute and just
Or if you want to just shout it out even, we can just, as a group.
We could do that, sure.
If you on your campuses or in your work, how do you define student success?
I think it's really hard not to have at the core of student success, student learning.
Mm-hmm.
And, I know all these other things facilitate learning, which is good, but that's really the student success, even if they need to learn that they shouldn't be in school at that moment.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a
Right.
success, right? Yeah.
Right.
But I think it's got to be about learning, and not grades, but learning.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're either learning something, or they're realizing that they're not ready to learn something, and they need to do something else to get ready to learn. That's what I mean. It's Southern student success keeps being redefined as graduation rates, and it's like, no, we could do that. We could give everybody a passing grade. That's nuts. It's what are they learning?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
That's a really good point. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Having realistic expectations.
Mm. For
And one time, just for their, academics as well as adjustment to college.
Yep, exactly. Thank you. Anybody else?
Does anyone else struggle with sort of different ideas of student success on your campuses? Maybe different departments see it differently. Go ahead.
Well, I think that, I come back to this, I think too many institutions define student success as things like graduation.
Mm-hmm.
And my take is student success is development of self-empowerment, development of self-knowledge, development of self-efficacy.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And part of that, you'll see that even in this idea of well-being of the student, I mean, it all comes back to the fact that as the student kind of has that is holistically sound, for example, they're going to be a more effective learner, right? And that's going to help them and motivate them in their classwork, in their academic success. And so that's kind of where that well-being starts, and then it helps them as a learner. Build that. So thank you.
So here's a couple other models that we were inspired by as we started this process, thinking about, okay, we know at the core of our model is really students' success academically, learning, but there's all these things that go into it. So one of the first ones, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Hetler's model of wellness, and basically, it's like someone mentioned, being aware of the interconnectedness and how each of these things, you can't have one without the other. And we're not the only ones doing this. The University of Cincinnati has this great healthy living connection, and they have several different dimensions. So you'll see, as we looked at different models out there, some of them include spiritual, financial, occupational, environmental, and we spend a lot of time in our group, which I'll talk about in a moment, thinking about what are the dimensions that we really want to focus on at Southern.
Well, and each of those dimensions, based on the institution or that individual, for example, Hetler, they all defined each of those areas differently. And what they included in that and what their concept of well-being was in each of those dimensions.
So after Katie and I had these discussions, we looked around a little bit to see what other people were doing. We decided we're going to bring together partners across campus with these main goals. One would be to offer programs more strategically and collaboratively as part of a comprehensive and intentional approach to student wellness and success. A lot of us are doing what we're doing because that's what we do, and that's what we've always done. But to sort of think about, well, is this an intentional approach? Are we doing this because this is what we need to be doing today for our students, or is this what we've been doing for the last decade and we need to continue? We also felt that having coordinated and centralized programming would help to bring together these diverse offices across campus to reach our students more effectively and more efficiently, and to sort of sneak in some messages in there too about health and wellness. So to have messaging in the Academic Success Center about health and wellness, stress management, to have information in the Wellness Center about academic skills and tutoring and resources, so that we're all speaking the same language and the students are getting the same messages from different people on campus. And we also felt that it was really important to make it easier for our students, our faculty, and our staff to access all of these programs and workshops. Because I know when I started at Southern, to try to find out what was going on, I'd go to the counseling center, I'd get one list of programs, I'd go to the Disability Resource Center, I'd get another list of programs, I'd go to Katie's office, and I was like, I have all these papers, I'm trying to figure out what's going on where. So if we could have a central place where students, faculty, and staff know, okay, I'm going to go to the Maximize Your Potential website, and I will find all of these resources listed in one central place. It's one-stop shopping. It also allows some of our offices to collaborate. So if I'm doing a program on stress management, Katie's doing a program on time management, we could maybe connect those and save some money, reach a bigger group of students. More bang for our buck. So what did we do? Katie and I got together. Like I said, I went around who's doing what, where do we fit in. Katie was sort of finding that.
Students, sometimes just that academic support piece, maybe just tutoring, wasn't helping the student enough, and that wasn't sufficient enough to get them to be successful in, say, one of their classes. So what's next? How do you help them with that academic support and at the same time figure out what else they need? Still giving them that tutoring support, but what else are they missing to really help them be successful in those classes?
So these were the people we invited to our first meeting. And you'll see here it's academic affairs, student affairs, staff from our library, adaptive technology, Drug and Alcohol Resource Center, the Fitness Center has been a great partner. You can see them all listed here. There's a lot of different ones. And I think we have here the student financial literacy and advising. He's been, it's a one-man office, and he's been such an awesome addition to this group because it's one of those really interconnected aspects. The financial health and wellness of students are worrying about their financial health, or working 2-3 jobs, or going to school, they are not going to be successful in any of these dimensions. And he's been a great partner. As you can see, there's a pretty, broad diversity of programs, and some of us work closely together. Like in the Wellness Center, I work very closely with health services, but then I don't usually work very closely with the Center for Adaptive Technology. So it was great for all of us to be around the table all at once to hear, what we're doing. And we invited them to the table and we said, let's figure this out. Like, how are we working together? How are we not working together? And how can we sort of integrate our programming that we can reach more students and all of our work be more successful?
So when we got together, we kind of, again, Emily touched on this, we looked at what do we mean when we talk about the wellness of our students, the well-being of our students, what does student success all mean to us, what are our goals and priorities in each of our departments, how can we collaborate, how can we connect, what are we currently doing, what do we need to be doing, what are we missing? And in doing that, so we kind of did a mapping of the student life cycle for a year. So we actually got in one room and we took all the big sticky Post-its and we put them on the walls, and we put every single month that the student would be in school, for example, more of a traditional semester, I guess I should say. We left out summer a little bit, but we did fall and spring semester. And so we had everybody write down in any one of the months what they felt the students' needs were during that month, what their stressors were during that month, kind of what in our different departments, what we've been doing. So what are the programs that we have? Is there any overlap? And what are our ideas for collaboration? How can we collaborate? So that
It was a really fun, I just have to jump in, it was a really fun activity to do, and you'll see people were going around and they brought their programs to the meeting to sort of, we said, come prepared to let us know what you're doing. And it was really neat to see how we all are on the same page in so many ways. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say that I think that's very enlightened leadership. There's too much siloing of things, and students' experiences are so diverse. If the people who are dealing with those different diverse parts of their experience aren't talking, you can have the best plans in the world, and 2 or 3 people who aren't there don't know, and then they can't put their input. So I just think that's I'm sure it was fun.
It was.
But also really enlightened leadership, which we don't have enough of.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It was great too to have different offices. So we had some people there from residential life, and they're like in a whole nother world from my world, and they could really talk about what's going on residentially at that time. We had a couple grad student interns who were also undergrads from Southern, so they could, they knew about stuff going on that necessarily I might not know about, like spring week or big parties, or when, there's social stuff going on that we're not aware of. So, yeah, it was a great exercise.
And what came out of that, we came up with about 5 themes. So in September, we noticed that all of our programming was around transitioning. Transitioning to school, transitioning to that workload again after maybe that summer break, or transitioning if they're living in the res halls, for example, transitioning to that. Or if they're not, if they're commuting, how are they transitioning kind of with a new balance with home life, right? Coming to school, if that's new for them. We, then once kind of October hit, that's kind of when the panic starts a little bit, at least the academic panic, because they've got their first exams. So it's kind of, and it's trying to find that balance, right? So it's trying to find that academic balance, that friend balance, right? I haven't, or that panic that I haven't met enough friends, or I want to meet more friends, or I'm not doing well in my classes. What do I need to do? Or you know what, my financial aid didn't come through, and so now I'm panicking about my finances and I need to find work. So it's trying to find that balance, we noticed. We also noticed by November, December, that was, again, that beyond that panic, it was that stress. It was that staying strong and managing that stress. So it was preparing for exams. It was kind of preparing for the ending of the semester. It was preparing maybe to go back home for the holidays, and maybe how that might be if you're there for your first semester, how that transition might be. We found in January, February, as they come back for that second semester, that it was more that setting goals, right? You're in that second semester, you've had you've had the fall semester, and so now you've gotten grades for the fall semester, so in the second semester, what are my goals? What am I gonna do differently academically, right? If I didn't do well in the fall semester, I need to set some better academic goals for myself in the spring semester. If, they come back with the New Year's resolutions, right? I need to lose 10 pounds, or I need to get a healthier lifestyle, or I need, my finances aren't where they want to be, so I need to add another job on. So all of that it's setting those goals, or it's even moving into the March and April piece and looking ahead. What are my plans for the summer? What are my internship options, right? As students thinking about those internships, what is the next academic year going to look like? What am I taking? This is going to be a step up in the type of level of classes that I'm taking. So we found that we found these great themes, and we found that all the programming pieces were all around that, and we found so many programs that were very similar that all these different offices were doing that nobody knew, that we didn't know that we were all doing, and so we were all putting in this effort where we were doing the same things, trying to reach all these different students, when we could now take these themes and take these different programs and try to come together.
So that led us to some questions. So after we had all of our sticky notes, Katie and I went back and we processed through it. We typed them all up, and we went through and we sort of pulled out those themes. We shared that with the group at our next meeting. And we said, this is sort of where we see our themes moving forward. Where do you think your work really fits? Where can you participate in here? And we're really hoping for, and we're still working on this part, we know you've done this in the past, but maybe we can do something different this year, or maybe we can all do something together. And thinking about really intentional, themed, collaborative programming. So we see it's all about transitions in September. Well, maybe we have, what does that look like? Do we have a transitions fair, that we have stations where the Academic Success Center has what their sort of programming and outreach is around transitions? Is it a series of workshops? We just finished up in March a week of wellness, and we had a whole week of themed events on campus around wellness, midterm anxiety and stress. Is it a week of themed programming where we have like a little passport system, and all the programs students visit are around that theme? And I think that's our big goal after this initial pilot year, to figure out how we can sort of set some priorities. And then also logistically, we were thinking, so what does this really look like? Like, are we printing a calendar? Are we making handouts? Are we making keychains that have our logo on it? How do we promote this and centralize it? So that led us to the creation of this logo, Maximize Your Potential at Southern. I think at first we had holistic student success at Southern.
But we realized students didn't know what that meant.
Too many words, it was too many S's, and it was too much. So maximize, we feel like this is language that people understand and makes sense. So we worked with our public affairs and design folks to create this circle, and having these dimensions that we had all decided on was what we want to focus on: academic, community, cultural, financial, health, and social. And we created a website, southernct.edu/max, so check it out, where students can go, and that's where all of our programs that we have now, that we develop, and our collaborative programs are listed. So this is just, when you click on the website, you are first taken to this sort of overview. It reads, these are 6 dimensions of well-being that fit together. These offerings will support you through your journey at Southern and beyond. So click on any of these areas to learn more about workshops. So what we do now is the members of our collaborative and other offices on campuses send me their programs. They have to select or let me know which of these dimensions their programs fit into. Many times it's more than one, which is great. Oftentimes it's, health and social and community. We're just doing our Take Back the Night programs over the next couple weeks, and those are in many of those categories, which is, community, social health, our goals. So then when people click on one of those dimensions, it brings them to a listing, and then on that page, we should have brought up the website for you guys, but you can check it out later. There's options you'll see here on the website. So say you click on academic. There's programs that are available upon request. so that, someone might be able to come in and speak to a class, speak to a club, speak to a residence hall, and then programs that are already scheduled by date. So in the Wellness Center, many of our programs are just available upon request. So that's where they would go. We'd have all our 10 programs listed and the contact information on how to get there. So here's just some of the examples of programs that we've had so far, listed through Maximize Your Potential. And you'll see there's, a big range of programs from, pet therapy, #wolf, sexual health, budget talks, walking tour of New Haven, lots of different presentation tips, sophomore surge, hands-only CPR with our fitness center, which is a collaboration between fitness and the health services. Lots of overlap, and it's all in one place. And we've found that it's become really easy for people to access programs and to find out. Katie will talk about some of the outcomes, but that's sort of how the website works. Are there any questions about that before we go on about the website, or no? I explained it well enough? Okay.
So as far as kind of outcomes and products, so we did put an evaluation tool together. It's very basic. That's one of the things that we'll see in the next couple of slides on kind of our future plans, what we'd like to really enhance. So we created an evaluation tool. It was a satisfaction survey, and it went to, so anybody who has programs that come on this, they send out this evaluation tool, the satisfaction survey to the students. How was the programming piece? We also ask a couple of learning specific questions, because it's great to know that, yep, that program was great, but what did you learn? What came out of that? So we asked them to kind of share some of those, the learning outcomes from there. Again, that's something that we really want to, we need to work on our assessment pieces a little bit more for that. But we've found that the students have, based on that evaluation tool, they like the programming, they like the collaborations, they like the website, they like this kind of one centralized location of kind of the programming pieces. We also found that so we did a lot of work to outreach to students. And this was done in kind of two different ways this year so far. And again, this is a place that we really want to grow. But Res Life, all the RAs on each floor, they are required to put together 3 different programs every single semester. So what happened is we collaborated with them, and one of their 3 programs, the RAs actually sent their students to one of the pieces on the Max website. So they picked one, and we did a good job. We worked with Res Life to really make sure that it was equal in the programming pieces that they picked, because let's be honest, the academic workshops aren't always the top choices that students are going to come to, for example. But we made sure to get that involved, and at the same time go to the Center of Adaptive Technology, go to the we tried to really equal out the different types of workshops that were there and that the students would attend. We also worked quite a bit with our first year experience program. So what they did, they require, even before this, they required their students, all of the first year students, to attend 1 academic workshop. And then they also required beyond that to attend 2 more workshops within this Max collaborative. So all of the first year students were attending up to 3 workshops in there. So that really helped the students get involved, know what was on campus, know what was going on campus, know about the resource and kind of this central location. So we have, as far as, we're still counting, but we've got over 280 programs that have been part of this. And that's still growing. We're still adding and bringing more people into this, and our hope is that we continue to grow that.
Can I just add something really quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Just to go back to the Res Life thing for a minute, having this system in place for my work made it so much easier. In the past, RAs would reach out to the Wellness Center like on Monday and say, can you come on Wednesday and do a program on nutrition or sexual health or whatever? And it was, we weren't necessarily prepared, but we didn't want to say no to them. And so what happened this fall is we sent out the list of programs. At that time, the website wasn't up yet, to Res Life. And they shared it with all their RAs. And by the first week of school, I had 20 programs scheduled for the whole semester. It just made our life, and they also had a menu that they could choose from. So they couldn't say, we want to learn about myths of nutritional supplements. Like, that's not something we offer at the Wellness Center. Here are your 5 choices or whatever, and we scheduled the whole semester. And another bonus of programming with the residence halls is they also have a budget for those programs. So they are required, they get the food, they do the outreach and the marketing to their students. So they have to get the students there. They want the students there to show they had a good program. So they get food, they do the stuff, and then we just show up and we do the program. It fits everyone really well. And also, we have also had, we did a presentation to our department, the School of Health and Human Services, and several of those professors have followed up with us. And for example, one exercise science class we spoke with is now requiring her students to attend at least 2 max programs, any programs they want, and these are juniors and seniors, for extra credit as part of their course. So those are the sorts of partnerships that we hope to continue.
So we're talking about some of the positive things. Of course, challenges always are there. It's never perfect. So technology-wise, we have our website, we've got our logo. One of the things that we'd like to do is actually get an app somehow and get that created. Students, that's what they use. They use the apps all the time on the phone. So we're trying to figure out how we can do that and how we can bring that onto an app. Marketing is always a tough issue. We're happy with how we've gone through Res Life and through the first year experience program, but that doesn't hit our commuter students. That doesn't hit some of the transfer students that don't maybe take first year experience programs. So there's a lot of students that we're still missing that we need to get to. Funding wise, we talk about. Right now we have small budgets. We're talking about. Money's always an issue, so it's trying to figure that out. We've been trying to look for grants. We've been trying to look for private funding sources. We almost had one in the fall semester, but to kind of help with some of those marketing pieces. So maybe we could get a little keychain that has that has our max circle on there, and students could start identifying and wearing that on their. On their coats or their backpacks or their hang from their phone or something. And the other piece is always, we kind of talked about the marketing piece. It's hard to reach those students. And some of it is looking at our programs that we do now and determining, we've done these for 20 years now. Do we still do those? Is that effective? Is it helping those students? Is it reaching the students? Do we need to maybe relook at those programs and then again start to look at some of those themes and maybe collaborate in a different way or refocus or repurpose some of that programming piece? So that's always a challenge when you've done that for, say, 20 years or we're trying to figure out how we can all work together to kind of minimize, to look at all the programming and see its effectiveness as well. So what's next? For us, there's lots of things that we want to do. We want to get more involved in the themed, when we talked about those 5 themes, we really want to bring our group together and really focus on those themes and see how we can get more programming for that. We talked about doing what we call the daily max programming. So maybe we have Money Mondays. We've got Free Fitness Fridays, Thirsty for Knowledge Thursdays, something, Wellness Wednesdays, Tobacco Free Tuesdays. So we have something each week that hits kind of that concept of different dimension of wellness, but it still has a focus, so the students are always thinking about those different pieces. We want more embedded programs. We want to work more with the academic side of things. We want to work more with the first year experience programs to see that study that I was talking about in the beginning. Could we do something like that? We want to get more assessment out of that. We want to see how much more effective we can be. We want to work on marketing. We want to work on our evaluation tool. So there's a lot of future things that we really want to work on. We've been really happy how it started out, and our hope is to really build and grow that and get that more known on campus and to the students and to the faculty and to the staff. And
We've got our work set out for us for next year, but there's always more time. So, I think that's good
So
timing.
this is, in closing, we thank you for listening to us, babble on for the last 40 minutes. We've got a few minutes left for questions. We did pose this question, for you guys to think about, but does anybody have any questions for us or thoughts, feedback? Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if you run into the paradox that we often run into with the students, that the students who are sort of the most disconnected and alienated are the ones that do the most work, and they're the hardest ones to get to
Yes.
and get in. So is
Yes.
there any way that you've sort of found a way around that paradox?
So that's where the first year experience program is really helpful, because those students are in first year experience. Now, that doesn't mean we reach all those students, because they can also be the ones that tend to not be doing well in that class and not following through with what those requirements are. But we reach a little bit more in that group because they at least know that they have to come to a certain amount of workshops. That's something that we definitely need to work on in kind of hitting that population, because you're exactly right. I mean, the students that are really pumped up and excited to come to these programs are the ones that are going to come to all of them, and that you see they're the leaders on campus, they're the ones that are involved on campus. And so that's something, the first year experience program has helped a little bit with that, because it reaches out to, say, almost all of the first year students, and they're required to take that. So that at least helps a little bit. It doesn't answer that, and it definitely isn't the solution for it, but it's kind of a start.
And a couple things I know that we've done, we struggle a lot with, in particular, reaching our commuter students. And one thing that we started this year is Coffee with Commuters. And we set up a table in the parking garage where all the commuters park. And we have coffee and donuts and fruit. And it's just a way to be like, hey, we're from the Wellness Center. Here's our information. Help yourself to a free coffee or Coke on your way in. Just to get our faces in front of them. For our tobacco, the Southern went tobacco free in August, and for our tobacco free campus, we have all these cessation resources. The students coming to us are not necessarily the high need students, so I go to where the smokers are, and I know where they hang out, and I go there and I talk with them because I know they're not coming to me. And that's been helpful for that very particular population with our tobacco free work. But it's definitely it's an ongoing challenge for sure.
And the hope too is maybe if we're able to really get the daily max going, that we can sit in, for example, Con Hall. That's where kind of the lunch. That's one of our areas for dining, or the student center where a lot of traffic comes, and just get our faces out there. I think that's part of it. Again, that doesn't mean that they're going to come. They're going to say, "Oh, great! You're doing that on your Wellness Wednesdays. That's great." Or they'll pass us by. But I mean, the hope is, I think Emily's right on that. It's part of it is hopefully getting our face out there a little bit more, and just, planting ourselves in the middle of campus and hoping that students pass us sometimes.
Talk for a second about connections with academic faculty, because it seems to me that it's absolutely integral, but sometimes academics just go, oh, well, that's all that health and wellness crap, and I'm teaching physics, so how do you connect?
Well, and so part of it is, I think, some of the partnerships that we've built have actually been very positive. We haven't necessarily yet had any negative or any pushback with that. First year experience has been our first start with the academics. That's an area that we really need to move forward with. Emily has worked a lot with the School of Health and Human Services and their faculty.
And the chair of the dean of the school is, invited us to speak at one of her faculty meetings. And I think that would be a goal for us, to get into those department meetings, because following that, she gave us some great legitimacy and buy-in to the work. It is sort of preaching to the choir, though, with the School of Health and Human Services,
Right.
But then it got the exercise science class involved, it got nursing classes to know. And so I think that's going to be key, is making those connections with the powers that be, to invite us in, let them know. Because at this point, I think our biggest challenge is just making them aware of the resource. Because once they're aware of it, they're probably, then they're going to know about it, obviously, and encourage their students to take advantage. So we need to make those connections.
So we're starting, but we need to do much better at that. That's on our big future plans, hopefully, for the fall semester. But we started where we had a little bit more where we had a lot of positive support, where Emily has a good rapport with the dean, and and we have a good rapport with the first year experience director. So that's where we kind of started to build that up, and then our goal is to move that forward a little bit more.
I think there was one more question over here, Katie.
Actually, I have 3 questions.
Okay.
One, I was wondering if you're actually presenting in the FYE classes, if faculty have allowed you to come into the class and present?
From
Yes.
some, it depends. For me, at least, it's like by invitations and with the people we have connections with. It would be great to get a set, for every FYE class. And we don't need a lot of time. We need 5 minutes. We could do what we need to do in 5 minutes and accomplish that.
And the Academic Success Center, we do come into almost every single FYE class.
But I was
So,
wondering if they allowed you to do one of your workshops as part of the class.
Oh, yeah. Well, but then so I think generally for Maximize Your Potential, not necessarily like an overview, like Katie gets invited in to talk about academic success stuff. I get invited in to do a whole class on sexual health or tobacco. But what would be nice, and maybe I misunderstood your question, is if we could get into every class and say, hey, check it out, Maximize Your Potential. This is a great resource for you.
we also, for every single first year experience class, there's peer mentors associated with each of them. And so they know about this resource. That's part of their job, is to promote that resource in each one of those classes. So they've done a good job in the fall semester doing that, and that helps with that requirement of, don't forget, you've got these 3 workshops, you've got 1 for the Academic Success Center that you have to attend, 2 more from this website in this plethora of 200, this grouping of programs. So the peer mentors has helped a little bit with that, just to get the programming pieces out. And then different departments are invited into different first year experience courses to then do something specific to their subject matter, for example.
So my second question was, I know you recently expanded your library. Do you do any actual workshops in your library?
Yes, so the Academic Success Center is actually located in the library.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So that is helpful, and actually we have a really good collaboration with many of the librarians, and they're subject specific, and so they come in and they do a lot of citation help. They do a lot of subject specific help. So they actually come into the Academic Success Center and do workshops, which is in the library. They do their own workshops as well, which they promote on the website, and then we actually promote in the Academic Success Center. Because it's so subject specific. But yes, and that's a growing collaboration too, but we've been really happy with where it's started.
And we've also started now hosting our Wellness Wednesdays in the library lobby,
Okay.
which is great.
And then my final question is, do faculty present any of your workshops?
None of mine.
No, so that is another thing that we need to work on. Well, I guess, not any in that, well, some of the librarians do in the Academic Success Center, but again, that's where we need to do some more outreach, and that as well.
Good idea, yeah.
Thank you.
We've got just 1 minute left, Katie. Yes, new student orientations, yes. We, last summer, we were just launching it, so we did, because I know I speak at all the student orientations,
I
Katie
do as
does,
well.
so they get the resource from a few different places. And then through like Residence Life or First Year Inquiry classes as well. So they will be getting Maximize Your Potential info from several of us.
And in the fall semester as well, we spoke at all the all the faculty that teach in the first year experience program, which are from a variety of different disciplines. We're also in one room and did a training, and we also came in and talked to them about the Maximize Your Potential, and talked to them about all the different programming pieces, and got their feedback and thoughts. And okay, so I think we're pretty much out of time, but I think
We'll hang around if there's any more questions. Sure.
You have 6 to 9?
Yeah, 6.
Six.
Were there any that were close to making it in there?
One thing we really debated on was whether we health, if it should be health, it should be wellness, it should be mental health, physical health. We had a lot of back and forth about how do we do that, but we kind of felt like we don't want to separate physical and mental health. It's all important, and to have it separated. There weren't any others that we were pretty all on the same page. It was more like, well, where do I fit? Like our Office of Violence Prevention, where do they fit sometimes? And they fit in a lot of different places, but it was
And-
pretty smooth, actually.
And I think part of it, we started off with 8 dimensions, but again, that was because we started breaking them down versus trying to condense them and have more broad topic headings or dimension headings and including much more in there. So I think part of it is, it wasn't necessarily that there was something that we didn't include in there, it was making it broader so we could be more inclusive, I guess, if that makes sense.
Thank you
right.
all so much.
Thank you guys
Really
so much.
appreciate it. Thank you. I've got my cards up here if anyone has any questions.